Kathy, Julia, good morning. Good to see you both this morning. I do want to say, you can't hear me, so good to see you both. And I want you to privately send me through the chat again, or you both should have my cell number as well. But again, I am going to utilize the breakout groups this morning as everyone is coming in. I'm continuing to admit everyone. So we have 11 of you. Alyssa, Ms. Gardia, good to see you this morning. Mr. Gonzalez, is it pronounced Ramon or is it pronounced Ramon? So good to see you this morning. It's Ramon, I remember. I think we have another one, but Kathy, I believe, Ramon, what is your middle name? Do you have a middle name or?
Ramon is my middle name. My first name is Juan.
There we go, Kathy.
Yeah,
there
is it Juan Melendez?
Yeah, Juan
Okay.
Ramon Gonzalez Melendez, but I've gone by
There we
Ramon
go.
since like kindergarten.
Okay,
No,
so
we
that's your
definitely.
preferred name, correct?
Mm.
Perfect.
Excellent, excellent. Let me see here. Again, I want to welcome you all this morning. I really appreciate the promptness of you coming in class. Again, Nadia, Angie, again, I can see you, Savannah. I'm sure Julia has probably communicated with you. You'll be one of the first students that I'll see this, today at 1 o'clock. Again, I know that you were going to work yesterday, or should I say that you had to go to work as I was seeing students. But again, I want to make this perfectly clear. And this morning, I want to be able to utilize the breakout rooms. But again, with a number of 11 of you right now, that really won't be necessary. I know what the time now is it's 9:05 right now. It's actually 9:05. Melissa, good to see you this morning. And I just want to say, I thank you all for just being present. Today is a new day, a new start, and a new beginning. With that having been said, I want to make sure that we utilize today to also have an opportunity to be able to answer all of your questions. Now, when I say all of your questions, I'm talking about the questions that are, I'm talking about the questions that are very pressing for you. Because again, what I want to do is the objective is to help begin lowering the anxiety because you got a lot of things that are coming towards you. So I want to make sure that, you know, at this point, with 12 of us on here, and I want to say this now, Kathy, excluding us, I think that we can actually go with the 12. We can begin with the 12. We can begin with the 12 instead of the smaller groups. But I want to make sure that, again, Ramona, and I appreciate you sharing that it's been Juan as well. But now we're getting to know one another. And when I say get to know one another, I want to emphasize on the idea of developing community. Okay. And when I talk about developing community, I know that the series of transitions, as I talked about yesterday, financial aid, registering, again, I want to make sure that whatever is the highest priority for you that we do. So as of this morning, I want to make sure that as we did the adjectives yesterday, I want you all to, you know, with the 13 of us on that's now, let me see. Okay, so Kathy, Julia, there's more coming on now, so I'm starting to get more in. But I want to take the time this morning, and without further ado, I want us to be able to tell us all, like, where you're from, and repeat that name again yesterday. And when I say repeat the name again, this is only day 2 for us. And I know it's early, so Nadia, I know how early it is for all of the thank you for that smile. See, that's what I'm talking about. So without further ado, Alyssa, I know we met yesterday, and if you would be willing to not only share and so to give an idea to your peers, kind of in our conversation, what you're getting out of it, and also when you're introducing yourself this morning, I want you to just share a little bit about how things have been working for you so far, because it's very early on in the program. Good morning, Jasmine. Good to see you, Ms. Cardenas. So Alyssa, if you would be so kind, if you would again, not only introduce yourself, where you're from, and I will say this, why did you choose to come to college?
So my name's Alyssa. I'm from Long Beach, California. I chose to come to college because I'm first generation, and it's ever since I was little, it's always just been like something that I knew for sure I was gonna do, not only for myself, but like for my family. And I chose Sonoma specifically because I've had like, I was an AVID, I don't know if you guys know what that is. I had like a speaker come to my class multiple times and talk about Sonoma, and like I fell in love with like everything it was about, and the campus especially. And so far, like my experience with EOP has been really good because I love the advisors and how supportive everybody is and the leaders, and like, yeah, it's been a really good experience so far.
Alyssa, thank you very much. Again, I think you said Long Beach?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Long Beach in the house. So you never know who may be in the room with you and the proximity. But that person that came to your classroom, I think we concluded that that was Mr. Derek Bradley.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
Yeah.
So Derek may have been, he was an outreach admissions counselor for all of you to be aware of. So he may have traveled to a number of your schools and whatnot. So Alyssa, I appreciate that feedback. And again, this is accountable Alyssa. So now we're actually in the group. And again, Kathy and Julia, I know when talking about those breakouts, but look at what we're getting now, okay? So sometimes it's the fluidity of what we're going with. Alyssa, thank you very much. Ramon, if you would be so kind to go second, and again, name, where you're from, why did you come to college, and again, if there's aspirations, and again, we'll get these questions. So Kathy, Julia, make sure we're paying attention to some of these questions that we may have to answer. Ramon?
Yeah, so my name was Resting Ramon. I'm from Novato, California. Wanted to go to college because just want to pursue higher education, something that my family hasn't really been able to do. Make my mom proud, you know. Basically what Alyssa said, but I don't really want to, you know, copy her.
So again, I'm just glad to know. I'm just glad that you reference Alyssa because you have a familiarity, and again, you know, it's interesting when not just when you say people's name, but people be surprised how some things and questions and comments make other people feel comfortable. Ramon, thank you very much. Berto, glad to see your picture in here. And again, since I called your name, Berto, I'm going to allow you to go third. Name, location, again. Remember the acronyms that we used yesterday? Did we have anything for your name yesterday? I know we're just waking up. We'll come back to you. We're all good. We'll come back to you. Nadia, if you would again tell us where you from, why you came to college, and again talk to us.
My name yesterday was Nagging Nadia. I'm from Santa Rosa, California. I'm basically coming to college just because I'm first generation, just like Alyssa. This is something that I've always just been pushed towards to do and just knew that I was going to do, and now I'm doing it. And I'm really excited.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad to know that you're excited. Any particular ideas of what you may want to major in? And I also want to get a major question from you today that we're going to get into answering here shortly.
Okay. I'm planning on majoring in sociology.
Okay. And is there any pressing question that you want answered today as of this morning?
No.
Okay. Very well. Thank you, Nadia. Again, Savannah, real quickly, I know that it was Studious Savannah, was it? But could you tell us again where you're from and name?
Yeah, so I'm Studious Savannah. I'm from Santa Maria, California. And why I chose to come to college, that was the last question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I chose to come to college because I want to be an adolescent psychiatrist, and I know that that requires a lot of college, so I just wanted to be able to like get that higher education and make my family proud like Alyssa and Ramon and everyone else.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Before we get to Kathy and Julia, because again, I wanted to do some breakouts, small breakout rooms. I want to make sure I don't have anybody. Okay, okay, Miguel, Amarani, you just came. I see you on there with your big A, sitting on the porch. Okay, Miss Lopez, I'm glad you're sitting on the porch and you're in there. But again, before I have Julia and Kathy, because again, it's a reason that they chose to be bridge leaders. I will say again, Kathy, since she's come to Sonoma State as a freshman, there's only been 2 students that I've actually made this mistake on the basis of thinking that they were upperclassmen. Like I've told you before, I've been there over 20 years. And ever since I met Ms. Valadares, Kathy, I've always thought she was a junior. I mean, from even the second year. But that has played itself in the maturity. But I also want to make sure, as I have Julia for the first time, and when I say have Julia for the first time, I'm saying I am so excited about the experience that you're having because of the support that you're providing for people. But I want to make sure I'm going to let you hear from the both of them as well. Ms. Perez, Angie, would you let us know again, name and what we said about, again, talk to them. Why did you come to college?
Okay,
And where are you from?
My real name is Angelina, but I like to be called Angie just because I got used to it since I was small. I'm coming to college because I'm a first gen, more like all of you guys, and I really just want to come to college for my little sisters, just because I want to be a good role model and show them that it's possible to dream big. Nobody in my family really has any real professions, and I want to be the first in my family. And yeah.
No, Angie, thank you. And again, where are you from in high school?
Oh, I'm from Santa Rosa.
Santa Rosa, okay. I want to acknowledge the courage that each of you are having right now to share your truth. And when I say acknowledging it, and Berto, I'm coming to you next, Berto. I see you, I see you, I see you. I'm saying that again. What I want you to know is that even prior to, so you don't have to worry about academic advising and registration. You just don't know who you have sitting in front of you. And I'm here for you. I'm here for Julia. I'm here for Kathy. And I say Julia, and I emphasize Julia because I am so inspired by you doing this in your first year. This is a major undertaking. So Angie, I want to say congratulations, and I want to say congratulations to you all because you're sharing your truth. Berto, talk to us.
Hi, my name is Berto. Reason I want to go to college is because, and I don't mean to get sad on y'all, but my father passed away in 2011 when I was 9 years old, and his only wish for me was to go to college because my dad grew up pretty privileged in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, his father passed away before he even got to college. So, and that was his dad's wish. So it's been kind of, the torch has been passed down through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's about it.
I appreciate. And what school and what location again? Where you? What school?
I'm from East Palo Alto, but my school is 30 minutes to a place.
I'm familiar with every school in the state of California. What is the name of your high school?
Menlo School.
Okay. I also know that EPA, again, at one point was known as the murder capital of the world, or should I say United States, again, in comparison to Washington, D.C. So that's a really rough area to come out of out there. You also have the East Palo Alto Prep and a number of downtown preps out there. And so I want to acknowledge you having not only overcome, but even more importantly, sharing your truth. I want you to know that this is a very safe space. And when I say safe space, I've never given you all the ground rules, but again, the confidentiality of our class is just that. Now, again, it's our class right now in our cohort, but as you go into the fall, there will be syllabus that you will receive from different classes. They're having to come up with different type of class guidelines and policies because of this virtual thing. And I'm going to make sure that I give you some tips for virtual learning as well. But Berto, I want to tell you, we're going to support you in achieving that goal and the aspirations of making sure that as you continue to live your life, we want to make sure that you're not going through it alone. And that is one of the things, if you all are hearing, and again, Julia and Kathy, I know I was talking about the breakout groups, but sometimes it's just the power of those that are sharing their truth that so often you can't move away from. If you listen, there's a running theme of being first generation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you understand what it means to be a first generation college student. Many of us, it's the first time that we've been introduced to what we call the ivory towers, and we need to have someone to help guide us through because we're new to all of this. I mean, again, as I stated before, having been a first generation college student myself, I never knew what to expect. The anxiety that was caused definitely wanted to make me return. But then when I knew that I had somebody that was going to support me there, and I'm not, when I say support, support looks differently in many different ways. Ms. Lopez, thank you for coming on this morning. I know it's outside. You're down in Southern Cal, if I'm correct. Are you in Southern California? And please, if you'd be so kind to, again, not only introduce yourself, tell us why you've come to college, and we'll continue to move forward here. Please, Stephanie.
It's gonna be so loud. I am so sorry.
No, it's okay.
So yeah, my name is Stephanie, and I am also from Long Beach, like Alyssa. I chose to come to college because I'm a first gen, and then I have like a passion, I guess, for school, kind of like a nerd. But yeah, I also wanted to experience like just what it has to offer, I guess. That's about it.
You know, good morning, Stephanie, and so delighted to have you. You know, again, I want you guys to all understand, or should I say you all to understand, that it is the focus and the dedication and commitment to you make doing something and becoming something with your life. Success is defined differently, okay? So I just want to say that as I start and moving into the academic requirement, I want you thinking about what questions that you want answered today, because we all have some sort of anxiety or some sort of pressures, and I want to begin to help lower those. Miguel, are you on there, Miguel? Miguel?
Yeah.
Okay, so you may not be able to provide the background, but we'd like for you to be able to, again, tell us where you're from and why you came to school.
Got you. So, my name's Miguel Gutierrez, and I went to school at Windsor High School. And I'm attending college because it has always been something that my dad has wanted for us. He came to the United States to provide a better future for us, and I just want to make my parents proud.
Have you noticed that running theme of making your parents proud? There is a
Yeah,
number of you, again, generally speaking, first generation college students, we don't just go to school for us.
exactly.
We don't just go to school for us. Even when you think in many of the professions that we choose as far as majors, we generally go into a lot of helping professions. Helping professions can be that in education, it could be that in healthcare, but generally we have a tendency based in our upbringing and based in the culture of how we've been reared is a collective nature. And that's why we have programs like Summer Bridge. What I want you to understand about Summer Bridge today, I actually even brought out, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It is important for you to know the history of the program. And it's simple to say that it was established in 1969 under the Harmon Act. It was a senator that said, again, open it up or shut it down. It was based on the farm working movements, the civil rights movement. Again, when we think in terms of Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, we're talking about this program was founded on social justice. So when you listen to what your peers are saying about why you've chosen and made a decision to go to school, there is some ideas. See, I use things like, see this? Okay. The first generation student experience. A lot of things that I'm going to use is from the University of South Carolina, John Gardner, but with regards to your transition, there's a lot of different layers. So today, you know, I was thinking about those breakouts, but I think to be able to maximize all of us, I want to make sure that I'm getting the questions and being able to answer the questions that you may have. So Melissa, would you again tell us your name and where you're from and school?
So I'm Melissa. I'm from Santa Rosa. It was, why am I going to college?
Why did you make the choice to come to college? Why did you want to go?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm also first generation, and I feel like most of us could relate that we want to make our parents proud. So yeah, and I
Okay.
would be the second person going to college from my family.
Excellent. Second person. Now, did I cover, let me see, I got Melissa, Savannah, Angie, Stephanie, Miguel, Miss Cardenas, Jasmine, and Yair, you're next.
Okay, so I'm Jasmine. I'm from Hollister. I went to San Benito High School, and I want to go to college because I want to repay my parents for their sacrifices. And it's something known that I wanted to do since like 7th grade. So I've just always had the mindset of going to school. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. No, Jasmine, thank you very much. Now, before I get started here, I'd like to have Kathy and Julia. Not you all have been meeting with Kathy and Julia, but I want both Kathy and Julia to take a few moments because it's important that you know them. They're your peers. I know right now they're your summer bridge leaders, but once the semester begins, as I stated before, there'll be some of the best resources. Kathy, I think I'll have you go first as the older, and then Julia. Again, you wrap it up here. Kathy?
Yeah, I think that everyone said kind of what I wanted to say, and that's the beauty of the program, right? To find people that have things that are in common with you. But in general, I am the oldest out of everyone in my family, like literally the oldest cousin, the oldest girl. So I've had to deal with being kind of the poster child and the golden child for generations of family members that came over here. I've had to work my butt off to get here, and I recognize that not only my family's contributions to my success, but also the willingness that I've put in for my success is very important to me. I like to be very independent on that kind of spectrum, and I recognize that I am a big example to my sister, to my older siblings that are actually in Honduras, and just dealing with a lot of problems that make you mature, I think, is kind of what contributed to Andre thinking that I was like a junior or senior when I was like 17 years old, was that I've had to pay for immigration stuff. I'll go through finals and I'm paying for an immigration lawyer. I'm doing this and I'm doing this. So there's a lot of struggles that come with being a first generation student. But I think at the end of the semester, when you get your grades and you see that you're in college, I always have this realization, like, this isn't high school. This isn't like, I don't have to be here. I'm sure the government doesn't want me to be here, but I'm here and I'm doing what I need to be doing. And I always have like that relapse, like, this is me getting a degree. No one's ever gotten a degree before. And I'm a woman. So that's just like, it pumps me up even more. So yeah, that's why I want to go to college. In part, yes, it is my family. Don't get me wrong. And it is to provide for my family the lifestyle that they should have and that they have earned, not deserved. They earned it. And also assuring my success and the success of my future family, and making sure that I'm breaking those what seem to be very permanent poverty lines. So just breaking all those opportunities and making sure that I'm getting my bag, and I'm making sure the rest of my family gets their bag.
Kathy, thank you so much. Another important note in there is that this program was designed to break the cycle of poverty. So when we talk about first generation, one thing that you haven't heard of in conjunction with that is first generation and historically low income. See, the idea of being a first generation college student, there's an intuitive going to college. And most of us that are first generation, we don't have that. And I'll give you an example. If you go in some people's houses and they have books in there, some people's houses, the books will be all pristine. There will be no writing and no notes in them because they're sacred. And then you go in other homes and the books have underlining in them and they have highlighting in them and they've been used and handed down. So again, it's a different mindset and it's a different way of thinking. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that as we embark on this journey, that we have an understanding and an openness to learning, but understanding what you're embarking on. Kathy, thank you so much. Because again, we're talking about breaking the cycle of poverty. You talk about looking back on your those that have come behind you, your younger sisters and brothers, your siblings, or should I say even more so, regardless if you recognize this or not, you've been already catapulted into a position of being a role model. Believe me, there are those that are looking at you that may not have the conversation with you, but they're watching you tie your shoes. They want to know what you eat. So as we move forward, we're going to move forward together. Ms. Romero, thank you for your patience. And thank you for electing to be a bridge leader. I know you had to go through a lot to get hired to do this. So again, I want to know, not just me, but I want you to share with all these students that are becoming familiar with you. Why did you come? Why are you being a leader? Who are you doing this for, and what do you represent?
So similar to Berto, my father passed away when I was really young. I was 5. And my mom had to give up her college dream so to be a single mom, so I'm doing it for both of them. And as sorry, I lose my voice in the morning, but as similar to I think some other people, I think Melissa had someone else in her family that was also attending college. So my brother and sister as well are fulfilling my mom's dreams. And that's why I'm at Sonoma State.
You know, I think how powerful it is for you to hear other stories, each of your stories, because often we think that we're in this alone or our experience is just unique to us. But I just want to acknowledge, when I say acknowledge your dedication, I want to acknowledge the fact that you were born to be great. This is not cliches. These are not things that I have written down. I am of the mindset, having done this so much, that it's more important for us to create community prior to getting into what I'm about to show you now. And so, Julia, Kathy, one of the reasons I didn't do the breakout groups in the smaller, because I felt the actual power of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the academic advising and show you what I'm going to be sharing with all of you. So I'm going to share my screen, and I want you to pay very close attention, because what I'm going to do is make sure that you understand not only how to expedite the completion of your degree, but let's keep in mind, you're not graduating tomorrow. And I want you to understand that. So the anxiety that you may have of all of the courses that I'm going to be taking and what is this going to look, we're looking to do one semester first and foremost. And we're also looking to make sure we're looking to gauge how we're going to be attentive and focused. Maria, I'm glad you're on. I'm going to be coming to you a little bit later on, but I'm going to share my screen with you. If you all can see my screen right now, can everybody see my screen? Okay. So what I'm going on is I'm going onto your academic requirements record, because I know even though you haven't asked a question, and I want you to start, make sure you take out a piece of paper and something to write with, but I want to make sure. Now, everything that I'm going on now, you will become very familiar with this. What I'm doing is I'm going into, I have each one of you listed as my primary advisees. And so I am, in fact, your primary advisor. As I mentioned to you yesterday, I'm going to be with you even as you identify a faculty advisor. See, what I do is I have all of your names listed here, okay? All of your names listed here. So I can go in and I'm just going to go to someone that I know, Ms. Julia. Let's go here, Julia. So this is one of my freshmen. What I'll tell you, my students graduate. And when I say my students graduate, that's on the basis of you paying attention. Now, let's keep in mind, I don't expect any of you to be rocket scientists. This is the first time that I'm even introducing you to what we call your student center. And if you notice at the top, all the links there, all the links, you have access to not everything that I'm showing you, but what I'm going into is what we call your academic requirement record, okay? And this academic requirements records allows me to see the progress. It's the most detailed account of every course that you've taken since high school. So what I want to start out by showing you is that you have two GPAs. You have two GPAs. You notice here you have an overall GPA, an overall cumulative, and then you have a Sonoma GPA. And that Sonoma GPA is just those classes done at Sonoma. As you can see, I can see what particular plan. So this student is an undeclared student. One thing that I want to say about being undeclared, as I mentioned before, you all are basically in an exploratory process, even though many of you have decided on what majors that you want to have. So there's a lot of introductory courses, or shall I say introductory courses or intro courses that you will take. Now, because I said intro, I want to emphasize that intro. I always tell first year students B1, C1, and D1. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. As you can see here, your overall degree requires 120 units. That allows you to earn a BA or BS degree, an undergraduate degree. But of those 120 units, there's a number of general ed requirements that you must take, and I'm going to go there right now. If you notice here, it says English language and communication. English language, communication, and critical thinking. But if you notice, it says 9 units are required, okay? From a lower division standpoint, you're required to have 9 units in each one of these areas. Area A, B, C, and D. And I'm just going to stick with area A right now. As you notice in area A, there's 3 areas. There's an English, you see that green check? English, oral communication is your speech or public speaking, and then you have your critical thinking. But what I want you all to know is that as I'm on this academic requirements record, I use this as a red light, green light theory. Anything red, you need to do. Anything green is complete, and anything yellow is in progress. So when I reference it as a red light, green light theory, it's just that. Red you need to do, green is complete, and yellow is in progress. But going back to the GE areas, and as I stated, there's 5 comprehensive areas. Your area A is your written and oral communication. So what we want to do is make sure that you're making progress towards English and math in your first year. Because if you're not eligible or complete with GE English and GE math in your first year, you are not in compliance with the state of California. So that's why even in your schedules, and many of you are pre-registered already in either English and math based in your placement. And so when I meet with you individually, these are the things that I'll be talking about, but I wanted to give you a concept because I know many of you had anxiety about, well, what is this going to look like? So once again, moving outside of area A, in area B, here's your scientific inquiry and quantitative reason. This is your physical and natural science area. Once again, you have your B1, you have your B2 in life science. This is your life science requirement in B2. Every major requires that you have at least 1 lab requirement, okay? Even if you're a psych major, criminal justice administration, political science, every single major or program, you have to complete at least 1 science with the lab. Now, if you're going into a particular natural science, biology, chemistry, anything like that, you're going to be having multiple labs. But remember, you're not graduating tomorrow. So we want to make sure that when we're thinking in terms of what that transcript is going to look like at the end of the semester, I want to make sure that we're electing to choose things that are motivating and interesting to you. And we're going to be showing you later on, not today, but through the course of the week, we're going to show you how to look at course descriptions and look it up. But I want you to understand the, let's say, what you're embarking on. So you got your area A, you got your area B. As I go into area C real quickly, this is your arts and humanities. Once again, 9 units. Now, let me say this. We're talking about lower division. Lower division is the coursework or the course numberings that's 100 to 299. So any courses at Sonoma State that are numbered 100 to 299 is considered lower division. Anything 300 and above is considered upper division. And again, you will, you're eligible, I'll just say it this way. Generally speaking, upper division courses are more demanding. It's not to say that you're not capable of doing a 300 or 400 level course, but what you want to do is you want to make sure, see, I'll use math as an example. Math is the linear line of learning. You can't get into, let's say, quantitative reasoning if you haven't had basic algebra, okay? So what we want to do is make sure that you have this understanding, and if you notice in the arts and humanities, see that C1 there? Once again, I'll say B1, C1, and D1. B1 is the introduction to natural and physical sciences, introduction to astronomy, introduction to physics, let's say chemistry and society, intro. C1, those are the introductory courses in arts and humanities. You might have an AMCS 260, you might have an AMCS 210. AMCS is American Multicultural Studies. I want to be careful not using acronyms, begin thinking like everyone know what so thank you, Kathy and Julia, those affirming head nods to let me know that, yeah, because I don't want any of you being confused. And I don't want you thinking that you have to remember everything today. I just want you to know that you have someone, and not just someone, that we are here to support you and help you understand these things. So when I say B1, C1, and D1, the majority of you will have like a math course, an English course. You're going to have some sort of freshman seminar or transition course. And then you may take an intro course into the program or major that you want to go into. And those of you that are undeclared, let's keep in mind, when I talk about the 120 units for the degree, I said to break it down simply, 50, 40, and 30. 50 units of GE, 40 units in the major, and 30 units of elective. But I'm going to be very specific on this GE. With your class coming in now, you're only going to be required to have 48 units of general education. 50, 40, and 30 is a basic blueprint. But your class coming in the class of 2024, you are only going to be required to have 48 units of general education. But what that means is each one of those areas required 9 units of lower division, and that final class, the final class to complete that area is to be taken at a 300 level. See, you're not eligible for upper division GE until you reach 60 units, and I want to indicate that as a magic number. 60 units is the magic number because that's the halfway point of your degree. 60 units, I call it magic for so many reasons. The university mandates, for those of you that are undeclared or may end up changing your major 2 and 3 times, by 60 units, the university says you have to be declared in a major, you have to be speaking with an academic advisor, and we have to be on track because that's the halfway point. So that's why I want to tell you, in your first couple of years, or should I say in the first couple of semesters, you're in an exploratory state. You know, anybody know that song, you put a little bit of this in your cup, you put a little bit of this, and you put I think it's, you put a little bit of Rita in your cup, put a little bit of this. A liberal arts education is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. It's a well-rounded thing. So you're going to have arts and humanities, writing and communication, behavioral science. For those of you that are in these behavioral sciences, I'm going to go to area D. I know that we're in area C now. I'm going to scroll down to area D. This is your behavioral and social sciences, okay? This is where your criminal justice majors, your political science majors, women's and gender studies, anthropology, behavioral science. So again, remember B1, C1, and D1. I'm going to show you something quickly before going back there. I'm going to show you all of the introductory classes in D1 so you can get an idea of what we're going to see. So again, you're not experts at this yet, but you will be. As I go to self-service, class search and browse. And it's important for it to always be in the right term. So I think we're coming into fall 2020. So you have the Institution of Sonoma State fall 2020. Now I want to say this to you all. The less specific you are, the more information you get. Or let me rephrase that. The more specific you are, the less information you're going to get. I like a lot of information so that I can make an informed decision. So for the first time, I'm just going to call your attention to 2 fields: course attribute, general education, and course attribute value. Any of those GE areas, you see all these GE areas, you are required to have 1 course in each one of these areas before you graduate. I'll show you again. You see all these GE areas? You have to have 1 course in each one of those areas. Now, when I say that, I also want you to understand that lower division coursework, and what we're going to be discussing is how to complete and expedite your degree in an economic fashion, because I don't want you being overwhelmed with debt and loans and finances. But the lower division general education and elective, you can also take courses at any of the 113 community colleges. That's how you expedite. I'm saying over summer, you might want to take 1 class. You might want to take 2. I don't really recommend more than 3. It's not to say that you can't complete more than 3, but I'm very adamant about when you take classes at the community college, take what you like and take what you enjoy. You don't want to go take political science or introduction to political science. Well, here, I said I'll show you the D1s first, but you don't want to be taking something just because they said, I gotta take this. You take what you like and you take what you enjoy. Let me say it this way. take what you can almost guarantee a B or higher. Because remember, you're still going to be vying for scholarships all the way through your academic career. So we want to make sure that you're preparing yourself with a transcript that's going to show your academic success, so that if there's, let's say, community scholarships, nonprofit organization, we as first generation college students, every dollar is important to us. Every dollar. And the one thing that I never want mess with is your money. When I say that, that means that every semester we have to pass a minimum of 12 units. 12 units is considered full-time. Anything below 12 units, you're considered a part-time student. And what I want you all to understand is your occupation right now is that of a full-time student. Everything else is a means to an end. So when you have a part-time job here, that's because you're a full-time student. We have to work to get through school. That's the nature of being a first generation college student. We don't have these trust funds and all these things that are sitting for us. So again, understand education is a tool to combat ignorance. We can always have multiple jobs. There's some people that work 4 and 5 jobs, but when you're talking about a career and a profession, there are particular credentials and let me say credentials and credibility that we have to study to show ourselves approved. Again, can I say studious Savannah, accountable Alyssa? We have to study to show ourselves approved. But we're in a non-judgmental zone. The beauty of Summer Bridge and the beauty of EOP is that we're in a non-judgmental zone. Someone said yesterday, when school starts, the campus is not going to look like Summer Bridge. So how important do you think it is for us to know who we are now and whose we are prior to us getting started on this journey? Again, in showing you just an example of the D1, I said general education, and I said D1. And again, I'm going to uncheck open classes. And I'll tell you why. I like to see everything. I want to see everything that Sonoma State has to offer for area D1. So I want to take a quick snapshot. Remember, 2 fields, and we'll go over this again. I don't expect you to be rocket science. But now, these are all the courses in area D1 at Sonoma State. And here it is. As you can see, the following courses: undergraduate, general education, D1. Let me see here. Undergraduate, general education, D1. Now look at these classes. Look at the course numbering. You see 210, that's less than 300. That's lower division. AMCS is American Multicultural Studies. When we start looking at courses at Sonoma State, these acronyms are very important. Like English, and I'll get down there. Let me see here. Here's anthropology. This is the acronym. Chicano Latino Studies. Criminal Justice Administration, for those of you that want to go into criminal justice administration, CCJ 201 is the first introductory course. And can anyone take a guess of what that course might be called? Let me see here. I think it's called like Introduction. Let's see here. Criminal Justice and Public Policy, but again, it's 201. See, you see here the class number. This is what we're going to be registering with. And again, like I said, I'm doing an introduction now so to help lower some of your anxiety. We're going to walk with you through every step of the process. We're not going to have you sitting somewhere and saying, oh, I didn't remember that. No, we're going to be right there with you. We're not doing this until the end of the week. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand that we have your back. So again, and just going back, I want to go back to those classes where class search and browse. And again, make sure that you're writing questions down because I'm going to take some questions here shortly. But I just want to use D1 as an example again. Again, GE, course attribute, and course attribute value. I'm going to go back to D1. And I do want, I'm unchecking open. And the reason that I did that is because when we start looking for classes, notice here, because I unchecked that box, I can see open classes, closed classes, and also waitlisted classes. So when I go down again, and I'm just looking at classes, each time that you see one of these brown titles, that's a different class. Okay, so you got 210, then you jump down to AMCS 203. These are different classes. But under that class, there's two sections. You see section 1 and section 2. There's two sections of this course. So as I continue scrolling down, and again, Kathy and Julia, if there's anything, just please don't hesitate. Give me a head. I can see both of your faces. I have now that you see 417, you know that's above 300. So that's an upper division course. Okay. Here it is. There's some other introduction to Native American studies. Hey, I know we have some psychology students in our class or some psychology major. There's introduction to psychology. Notice the number 250. So it's below 300. So I just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot. Introduction to WGS 255. So now, do you know, just with what we've done there, here, wait a minute. Just in what we've done there, to give you a snapshot, I wanted to make sure that you understood how you're going to make progress towards your degree. The formula to graduate in 4 years, and I don't even know why they call these institutions 4-year institutions, because the average to complete the degree is like 5 to 5.5 for various reasons. Study abroad, internship, co-ops, building your networks. This is going to be an experience for all of us. But the uniqueness of this journey is unprecedented. You have to understand, Berto, Ramon, Savannah, Nadia, you're the ones, not just that we've been waiting for, who could do this? The average person couldn't do this. I want you to know this, but we're not doing it tomorrow. So as I go into meetings with you individually today, again, Kathy, Julia, I'm having you rotate on every 20 minutes, starting at 1 o'clock. I think Savannah will be like number 1 at 1 o'clock. And so, you know, by 3, again, you have the hours. So as you speak with Kathy and Julia, and then what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start allowing for evening appointments as well. Okay. Again, I'm going to be communicating with Julia and Kathy, but if there's someone that has an evening appointment would work for you, I have no problem in scheduling an evening appointment. Generally, probably not after 8:30, I guess. I mean, I want to be respectful of your time. Then I got to get some rest too. But I just want you to know that on the basis, Yair, what works for you. I mean, I know you're tired now. I don't know when you went to sleep last night because I wasn't with you, you know. But no, I just want you to know, and I want you to have low anxiety. And when I say low anxiety, this is the beginning. This is the beginning for all. Oh, Dr. Ezra, okay. I'm so glad to see Ezra coming on, Dr. Ezra. It's at 9:50 right now. I hope that today's class, again, remember that you have the survivor personalities. When you think back and you reflect on, again, obstacles, you have a survivor personality. And there's something, as we continue on, there's something called a path of the warrior. The path of the warrior. So that spirit that resides inside of you, I want to wish you all the best today. I want you to go forth. We'll be looking forward to meeting with you starting at 1 o'clock. So Savannah, I'll see you at 1 o'clock. And then Kathy, Julia, you let me know who else I'll be seeing today. If I'm going to be visiting, or should I say seeing people after hours, let me know with regards to that there. I want to wish you all a good class. Make sure that you're engaged with your instructors. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Okay. Was that at all helpful at all? Just kind of doing a mere introduction. So what you're going to see is that when I'm meeting with you individually, I'm going to be pulling up what it says on your particular academic record. In addition to that, I'm also going to be going into the financial aid piece. But as we know, I don't want to overwhelm you. So now Dr. Ezra is the host. So again, I want to wish you a good class this morning, and I'll see you this afternoon. You all take care and have a wonderful day. Yair, get you some coffee. All right. Take care. Kathy, Julia, thank you so much. I'll see you, Melissa. Mike, are you on? Well, hey, until Dr. Ezra is back on, I know your class starts at 10 minutes. Any questions? Berto, Angie, Nadia, again, I want your videos as you're able to have them. Alyssa, again, Ramon, are there any questions? When I say any questions, any thoughts that you have right now? I mean, going into this morning, remember, this is another new day. It's another new day for you. I know we're continuing to still wake up. It's still early. Any questions? Any thoughts? Any thoughts on what I shared with you? Again, Jasmine, do you understand what you were just looking at? Any idea? Okay. How do you feel about that, Angie? And again, I want to hear something.
It was really useful. Like, I didn't really like know about the classes before this Zoom meeting, and I feel like now I'm like less stressed out because I know that I'm gonna get your help and I'm gonna get my Summer Ridge leaders help too.
Okay. Well, thank you, Angelina. Nah, Angie, I got you. I know you said Angelina, such a beautiful name. Thank you for your feedback. Anyone else before Mike comes on here for Dr. Ezra? Anyone else? Amirani? Did I say Amirani?
Yeah.
Was that at all helpful for you? Just kind of a
Yeah, I was.
okay.
It was.
Okay. Anything. Yair, what did you see? Are you yawning? What did you see in there? Savannah, did you see anything possibly that you're starting to kind of just understand something?
I was actually a dual enrollment student throughout high school. So I was taking class at my community college while I was in high school.
Okay.
Seeing like the A through D, like that kind of stuff, the advisors at my community college didn't really explain that to me. So that was really helpful getting to know all that kind of stuff.
It's very vital, and I'm glad that you understand that. See, you can't complete upper division GE or upper division coursework at a community college. So when you're taking, most of these students at a community college, they're looking to become certified in 9 units. See, you can be certified in 9 units in those areas, but once that happens, the last and final course has to be taken at a 4-year institution, at a 4-year university. Again, I know, Berto, you may not have been aware of that. Ramon, were you aware of that? Yair, were you aware of that? Okay, so as you're sitting back taking in this information, I want to make sure that I know how helpful it is to you. Ms. Lopez, let me see here. Okay, Dr. Ezra's coming on now. Again, you have a wonderful class. Mike, are you in there, Mike?
Andre, we still have a couple questions in the chat since Ezra's not here.
Okay, please. What, let me see in this chat. Thank you, Kathy. Would you all recommend being in Hutchins? I'm having second thought. Yes, you can reach out to me. Okay, that was from Stephanie. Stephanie, with regards to the Hutchins program is a different way of learning. It's a Socratic method. The Socratic method is that in the Hutchins program, it's more oral examinations. The Hutchins program is one of the programs that actually they provide a waiver for the practice exam. They don't like to be perceived as a teaching program, but they're looking for students that want different styles and different methods of teaching. The thing with the Hutchins program is those units are in block form. So whereas you would be you would get credit for lower division GE just being in a 12-unit block form in Hutchins. So the thing with Hutchins, it's a seminar style learning environment that's very different. Hutchins, basically they max out about 13 to 15 students per class. So the uniqueness of the Hutchins School of Liberal Arts. So again, we'll be able to answer those questions, and I'll answer additional questions. So Dr. Ezra's coming on now, and Kathy, I'm glad that you said that. So again, make sure you continue to write these questions down because again, I can answer those, and then you'll become more knowledgeable. I want to wish you a good class today. Dr. Ezra is on. He's your host. Good to see you today, Mike.
Hello, sir.
And I think they're still there. Everybody's waking up. I think we'll get some coffee. I'll make sure if I can send some virtual coffee to Yair. But outside of that, you all have a wonderful morning. Mike, look at these smiles that you have in the class.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. And Angie, thank you for letting me know that you feel comfortable in knowing that you have support. And again, we are going to be there for you. Nadia, keep smiling. Okay. Savannah, I'll see you at 1 o'clock. Mike, have a great class.
Shit just froze. Hi, I had to change to my phone here. The computer didn't work. How many people do we have? Okay, I can't really see everyone because the way the computer is formatted, this phone is formatted. So I believe we're gonna have a tough time here today. Let me just get myself oriented, everybody. Could you turn on your videos, please, if you're able? Okay, let me try to get this set up here. Okay. Can people hear me? Yeah, okay. Okay, how am I gonna do this? Thank you everyone for unmuting your videos for those who have. Okay, well, this is gonna be a little bit tricky today, but we'll try it. So the catch is that I don't have a good view today, so I'm not gonna be able to see everybody at once. So I, can only see about 3 students at once. So I won't be able to see people's hand raised and things of that nature. So I actually might have to call on people today somehow. You know what? Maybe I should. I'm sorry, guys. I am just not sure what to do here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this up on my computer again, and we're just going to have to start in 5 minutes. I'm sorry about this. Hold on. Don't care about anything around you except this stupid fucking thing at home. Okay, now, well, let's put it this way. Kathy, can you see everyone on your view?
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell me if someone has their hand raised? Okay, so we'll do it that way then. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for these technical difficulties. That's the way it is sometimes here in online teaching. Okay, let's begin. My apologies for the delay. Okay, so many of you read Baldwin's piece. I did read all of your notes, although I haven't commented on them. And I'm not sure, actually, I forget if the instructions said or not, just use your handwritten notes and PDF them in. But if it didn't say that, generally what you would want to do is type your notes and hand those in. Generally, people do not do any handwritten things that they hand in college. And not that anyone's going to get penalized or anything like that, but just something to think about. Always hand in typed work, never handwritten. Okay, so first question I have for everyone today is, why do we even bother to talk about race in America? I mean, aren't we all just human beings? Shouldn't we all just be colorblind and just say we're all humans and not acknowledge race at all? I mean, isn't James Baldwin just causing a lot of problems by focusing on being Black? Shouldn't he just focus on being American? How do you speak to that colorblind argument? How do you begin to tell someone that race matters? How would you explain that to somebody? Is there anyone with a hand up? I'm scrolling through my screens.
Nadia has her hand up.
All right, let me find her. All right, Maria. Maria with no video? No, she couldn't. I'm sorry, guys. This is a really bad modality I'm in. I don't see Maria.
Nadia. Maria is at work. So
Oh,
Nadia.
Nadia. Sorry. Okay, so Nadia, I got. Let me unmute her. If I can do this. I'm clicking on her thing, and I'm not even sure.
Unmuted.
You're unmuted. Okay, great.
Race is important, and I don't think people should say that they're colorblind or we shouldn't see color. because I feel like you eliminate where they come from and who they are and everything. And I feel like it's something that we should celebrate and acknowledge in each other. So saying that we don't see color and stuff like that, you kind of just dismiss everything they are.
Anyone want to follow up on that, piggyback on those comments? What if I'm insisting? But don't we have more in common than we don't? Shouldn't we focus on the things that make us the same instead of difference? I say a focus on diversity is what's tearing Americans apart. How do you respond to an argument like that? I say let's de-emphasize race and be colorblind. Anyone want to try to inform this person? Explain to them, why does race matter?
Savannah has her hand up.
Okay, great. I'll go over to Savannah. Thank you.
And students can unmute themselves.
Oh, great. Okay, just unmute yourself then and hammer away. I got you, Savannah.
So I feel that if we were colorblind, the horrible way that people of color are treated wouldn't be quote unquote justified in the way that, I don't want to say ignorant because I feel like that's a very strong word, but ignorant people tend to quote unquote justify the way that people of color are treated, backed up by the fact that like, oh, well, they're different. And yes, diversity is important and we should celebrate that, like Nadia said. But if we were colorblind, there wouldn't be a way that racist people can justify their actions.
Good answer. Other comments, other answers to this. I say that America would be better off if we all just decided that we're of the American race. That would solve all of our problems and we would have common ground only. What's wrong with that? Who gets hurt there? I don't want to try to articulate why it's important to talk about racial diversity. Now, if you remember last class, I talked about two concepts, agency and structure. Agency is what you do, how you act, the things you can control, how you be, the moves you make in life. Structure is the cards that you are handed in life, the cards you are dealt in life, the circumstances you can't control. I mean, just by being born a certain year in a certain country, looking a certain way, a certain gender, a certain sexuality, there's already a range of choices open to you and closed to you. Your structure, things that you can't control. Now, check this out. Most people in America who believe in colorblindness believe that most racism in America is agency racism. People acting bad to one another. And if we just stopped acting bad to one another and started acting good to one another, racism would go away because it's all about how people treat each other. Colorblindness becomes a part of that process for them. But most people in academia believe that racism is not based mostly on agency, but mostly based on structure. How much economic or political power a certain group has access to, where people are segregated to live, where people grew up, what kind of school were you privileged to attend. Most racism isn't done by people acting badly to one another. It's by systematically denying people or giving people opportunities, privileges, etc. So the way schools are set up in America, they're funded generally by property taxes. I don't know if you know that. Public schools are funded by the values of private homes in a given zip code. Wealthier schools, therefore, get more money. Whites tend to have more money than non-whites in America currently. Therefore, white schools get more funding than non-white schools. That forms racial inequalities. Whites get more educational quality than non-whites in public schools generally. That's a form of racism, even though no individual white decides that they should have better schools. It's systematically built into how American political and economic systems work, to the point where now the way racism is, Nobody has to be mean to anyone anymore. And basically, most people are not mean on the individual level. Most people think of themselves as very nice. Racism winds up operating mostly within our systems. Structural racism. So when people say systematic racism, that's what they're talking about. So let me ask people, do you think in what ways, or simply yes or no, is James Baldwin's piece from the 1960s, 40 to 50 years ago, 60 years ago, still relevant today? And if anyone wants to speak on what passages were relevant, now you're tapping into your notes a little bit here. Anyone want to
see the chat?
Yeah, go ahead and unmute. And I do see, yes, I do see the chats.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the background. Does anyone want to speak to how Baldwin might be relevant to today? Yes, just unmute yourself, Amirani.
Well, like speaking on my notes and everything, like even before realizing it was written in 1963, like before I realized that, I thought he was like a present, like author speaking about today until I went back and really saw the year it was written in, because it can relate a lot to now and the Black Lives Matter movement and how everything is going on. And like in a quote, he said that once he suspects his worth, he began to attack the entire power structure. And I think that's what's happening now with like George Floyd's death being like the tip of the iceberg, and people saying enough is enough, and they are defending, like they want equal rights, like, and everything.
Thank you. Other people want to comment? Is this piece relevant to today? And if so, like, how did you feel that? And I see people participating via chat. And Berto, you can just go in and unmute yourself.
I think I was in a class in high school, and my teacher mentioned that the problem young people face today is still the crisis of finding their own identity. And on the first page of the reading, I annotated the part where it says to ask questions of the universe and learn to live with those questions is the way he achieves his own identity. And that's what goes on to talk about when people are educated and know how to like express themselves and or be able to realize for themselves how they feel. That's when their identity becomes theirs, like truthfully. But I had a question about this because this would lead to kind of like a social chaos with like unattractive decisions, as we've seen before by dictators and people who formulate their own thinking and identity, yes, but not in a pleasant, ethical way.
Okay. Thank you. Follow-ups? How is this, or you can answer Berto's question, but how is this relevant to today? As you saw it, in your view. Anyone want to stab at it?
I'm gonna comment again. So basically, I'm a Ronnie, I think that's how she said. Yeah. Talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. Right now, one of the points that Baldwin made very clear was that basically educating ourselves and learning is freeing the conscious. So thinking freely and like ideas and realizing what's wrong with society, like today, as we're doing and we've seen time and time again, it's a threat to our society. And I know that Baldwin said somewhere there that they're scared of a revolution, and revolution has such a negative connotation to it. And I just think it's important with the Black Lives Matter movement, because right now you see a lot of politicians, a lot of very powerful people that are against this because they're afraid of what could happen, and how the power structure works and everything. And they see that people are really angry. So yeah, that's what I see in relevance to today.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to just pull out their comments as to how they see a connection between Baldwin's piece and whatever's happening in the United States today or the world? I know some people are commenting in the chat section, but does anyone want to orally comment?
I know for me personally, growing up with I like to correlate things to like my everyday life. So like when I read a piece, I like to kind of see where I can pick and choose like what I can relate to personally, I guess. So I know for me, with very liberal views and my stepdad with very conservative views, we like to bash heads a lot when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement. But I feel like it's very relevant to today because with everything going on, branching off of what Nadia said, how a revolution and everything, but I feel that like if we don't educate ourselves, then when is the change going to happen? We have to educate ourselves and educate others as well, or else nothing's going to happen.
Now, let me ask you a follow-up question. When you find that you try to educate, say your stepfather or someone on social media, is the response generally that people get educated by you or that they re-entrench their existing view already?
Normally they try to push their views on me even more, and to stubborn people with very set views, I would like to consider myself a very open-minded person. Like I'll listen to your views, but if you're kind of arguing with someone that's very closed-minded, it's hard to try to educate them when they're not willing to listen in the first place.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was typing right now.
Oh, okay. You want to just throw out your thought too with words?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was saying like, even with times progressing, the reason these like articles still matter and like why it's still like relevant to today's time is because we're like taking steps in a wrong direction where people who are like I guess corrupted by the times and like I guess follow people who have a corrupted mindset are closeted by like the fact that if they speak their thoughts they will get bashed and thrown away as a person in society, I guess. And it leaves no room for discussion or discourse or even agreement. So I guess that's why we're like evolving, but just backwards.
That's an interesting idea, backward evolution. I want to try to explain the meta concept of racism as I try to explain it to students and citizens if I ever go on the radio or television. I think this will help put Baldwin's piece into context. I think a lot of us, if we were raised in this country, going to the public schools or even the private schools, has a general idea of how American history works. And in terms of racism, most people, I think, see American history as sort of like a straight line going in one direction with an arrow at the end of the line, meaning progress. Like in the old days, we had slavery, and now we don't. That's progress. African Americans couldn't vote. Now we had a Black president. That's progress. So like people see American history as kind of improvement in some ways. And that's true to some degree. In America, we have improved. Since the beginning of time in America, we have had a movement toward anti-racism. Since slavery, there were people arguing against racism in America. But also, since the beginning of this country, there has been racists. The people who wrote the Constitution owned slaves. They wrote all men are created equal while there was slavery. So then there was a civil war to defend slavery. And then after the Civil War came segregation and Jim Crow. And then after the Civil Rights Movement, we had a war on drugs that mass incarcerated people of color and wiped out many of the gains from the Civil Rights Movement. So in America, we have an unbroken straight line going across our history of anti-racism. But we also have an unbroken straight line of racism in America. They operate in the exact same space. Let me put my phone down. So here's the line of anti-racism. It's always existed in America, but here's the line of racism. It's also always existed in America. They are constantly going on at the same time in battle. Usually, in my opinion, the racists are winning. But back and forth the country goes, shifting in small directions either way, based on the strength of racist movements, which exist in this country right now, Trump's base, for example, and anti-racist movements like Black Lives Matter, which exist in this country at the same time, doing battle. So it makes perfect sense to me in America that after we have the first Black president, Barack Obama, we then would have the first white nationalist president in a very long time in Donald Trump. That racist response to anti-racism. Back and forth we go in America. So I think it's important not to think of America as just one thing, as racist, which it is, or as anti-racist, which it also is. Now, I usually think in America the racists have more power, and they tend to kick the butts of the anti-racists usually. But we do see a moment right now where some people who were firmly in the racist camp are starting to take a second look at Black Lives Matter and maybe reformulate their ideas about what is right for America. So I'm going to kick it back to you, and we might not have race as our primary objective here now, but if you had to think of what you think needs to be improved in America for it to remain powerful in the world and good to its citizens, what would you say is really high on your list? What do you see that this country has to change directions in if it is to retain any greatness it might have? Yeah,
I would say education.
Talk as much as you can about that. I think I went to a good school. I think our educational systems are really good. How dare you bash the schools? Tell me what you mean.
I say education because we have well, from first grade to like now, our history classes I feel like kind of sugarcoat history. They don't tell us the whole story, and I know it's not their fault, but the actual educational system who makes it that way, because at least I know for my school, they teach us like, okay, America's history, like from the very beginning, and then give us like 2 weeks on like African American history, or maybe even less. They like briefly talk about it, and we have to look for outside resources, outside classes like at our community college to learn history of others. Like I had to take a class in Latino and Chicano studies just to learn about my history, because my school wouldn't teach it to us. And I know that's like not just my school, I know it's other schools all around the country. And I feel like if our education system was better, more and more people would be educated around other cultures and understand understand them way better than they are now.
I don't want to follow up on specifically the subject of education. Does anyone have anything more to say about the relationships between education and anti-racism, say, or just American improvement? If not, I have a comment on that, but first I want to see if you do.
Okay, so even in the passage Baldwin, Baldwin states they liberating both races if you learned about the real contributions Black people have made. And I think that's super significant and goes along with what Ronnie said. Because people would be more aware of like how much other races have done for the country.
There you go.
Therefore, would educate them, maybe like change their perspective to like
That was good. There was some lag, but I caught most of what you said. So that's a key one, the positive contributions of non-white people to America. I mean, the way U.S. history is written, all the great explorers, anyone who ever invented anything wonderful for this country is almost identified as a European. I actually have students name 10 explorers, 10 inventors, and it's like an all-white list. And right, that skews people's perspective as to who made this country great. Making America great again, in some ways, is a code word for making America white again. I will say this, I'm going to counter the idea. I believe it's true because, you know, I mean, I got my first anti-racism from school. But I want to say this. Some people theorize that anti-racism comes from education, but racism comes from education too. And like, let me ask you this. Would you call President Donald Trump an educated man? I certainly would. He went to all the best schools. He went to an Ivy League college, but came out strongly racist. Education may have made him more racist somehow. Let me explain something. I think in many ways, racism might start from the top, not from the bottom. A lot of people think that like the Billy Bobs, the rednecks driving around in their pickup trucks with the Confederate flags, they're the ones causing racism in society. I think they're the end of the process of racism. Let me tell you two little formulas I have. Can't educate a man with no brain. First of all, like take something like slavery, for example. Now, how did it come that the whites in Europe enslaved Africans, if not racism? Like, it had to be racism that caused Europeans to choose the people from Africa to want to enslave, right? And that's one theory, but let me give you a different theory from a famous historian called Eric Williams. His theory is this: racism was invented a century after slavery to justify slavery. So, okay, wait a minute. Now, how could racism justify slavery and not the other way around? How did this work? Okay, let me try to break it down for you. All right. So Europeans were turning towards commercial agriculture. Their early capitalism was based on agriculture, just like in the United States, where the biggest capitalists in America were the slaveholding plantation owners. Okay, so European capitalists, before mechanization, had to figure out how they would, you know, tend to these vast swaths of land. Berto, question.
No, I just want to make a point before I forget.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the comedian Dave Chappelle.
Of course.
He made a point in one of his, and I know it's comedy and there's some humor to it, but what he said was true. It's like if you know Emmett Till, you know how his whole life was like, or his the ending of his life was brutal and completely gruesome. But it did kickstart the open casket funeral. Right. Did kickstart like a huge movement that pushed for equality. And some would say it's one of the major stepping stones. And to agree that Dave Chappelle made that Donald Trump has united a majority of the United States to stand against him, if not anything else. And I feel like Donald Trump is just another, I feel like a stepping stone that will, maybe not now, but will pave the road for equality to come. And I'm not talking about complete equality, but just another for it with like, I feel like the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening right now, these protests, these riots in LA and whatnot, wouldn't have happened
right.
in the another president that wasn't as extreme to the max that Donald Trump is in.
I agree with that last analysis, although I said that to someone and they came right back at me and said, well, Ferguson happened under Barack Obama, which I really couldn't speak to that. But I do agree with your point. What Berto's saying is right in the middle of what we're talking about here. Let me back up and talk to what he said. So in 1955, there was a 13-year-old boy, Emmett Till. He was from Chicago. He took the train down to Mississippi to visit relatives. He went to a store in Mississippi to buy candy or something like that. There was a white lady in the store running the store. She said that Emmett Till said something sexy to her when he walked out. And you know that interracial dating is one of those things that really gets under racist skin. And in Mississippi, even more so back in the 1950s. So when the husband of this woman found out this rumor that Emmett Till had said something supposedly sexy to her, he got really mad. He got his friend. They kidnapped Emmett Till and they beat him to death. They killed him. They lynched him. They murdered him. This horrible act of racism against a 13-year-old boy. Well, it became national news. And the boy's mother held an open casket funeral for him in Chicago. And 50,000 people went and viewed the body. And donations to civil rights organizations skyrocketed when people saw this. It was like, you know, an early sort of Black Lives Matter movement in response to this senseless murder. So we had an act of racism in which this boy was murdered. But then the response was anti-racism by America. Emmett Till was killed in like May 1955. The Montgomery bus boycott, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, the first chapter of the civil rights movement is December 1955. So in response to this vicious murder of this young boy, Black Americans didn't cower. They rose up in response to anti-racism. And that's kind of like the same thing that you see happening with Black Lives Matter in response to Trumpism. And that's the way it works. There's racism in America, and then anti-racism comes and counters it. And it's possible that the next president will be anti-racist, but in response to that, 10 or 15 years from now, might be someone who's Trump squared or Trump cubed. And then from that will come another civil rights movement. So back and forth we will go in America. The racism question never gets resolved. It goes up and down. And like Thurdo says, we might be in a moment where Trump is unwittingly the stepping stone for massive anti-racist action. Let me get back though to the idea of if slavery didn't come from racism, where did it come from? Like, okay, so Europeans enslaved Africans, racialized slavery, it seems like, but the racial explanation doesn't come for decades after. So these European farmers now need a bunch of bodies to work their lands if they're going to be capitalists. All right. So what are they going to do? I mean, where are they going to get these workers from? Why Africa? And there's reasons for this. Let me explain the reasons. First of all, Europe was close to Africa. They had a long-standing trading relationships. Kingdoms in Africa had been trading with nations in Europe for centuries. They were close to each other. The biggest celebrities in world history at that time were explorers. They were considered the bomb. I mean, because like you could fall off the edge of the earth, they thought. I mean, America was like the new world. That's why in your elementary school in America, like you learn about Columbus and Balboa and all these people who are considered great, even though they were slaveholders and savages themselves. So the idea that you could get from one place to another was like not too guaranteed in America, in the world at that time. So like your trading relationships were limited. Europe didn't trade with North America. They traded basically with Africa, and that's it. So that's number one. Number two, there were shipping lanes between Europe and Africa. Like I said, you couldn't just get from one place to another. Navigation wasn't easy. So you have two places that are close to each other. You have trade relationships for centuries, and you have the shipping lanes. So it's in place for them to have a trading relationship. What's the last thing you need? Actual slaves. And guess what? In Africa, it was customary to enslave deviants, prisoners of war, enemies of the state. Now, there was no such thing as chattel slavery in Africa. The idea that if you were a slave and your kids were born, they became slaves. Nah, that's a sick American invention. But there was adult slavery, like there is adult prison. And so what happened is that the Europeans bought these prisoners from Africa. And that's how racialized slavery started. They didn't think Africans were inferior at all. The Greek and Roman empires based, the greatest European societies, based their societies on Africa, on Egypt. So they actually looked up to Africans in Europe at first. But then they created this system called slavery, and the slaves are of African descent. And we know that slavery is horrible and disgusting, and that these European nations think of themselves as Christians, as good people, as followers of the Ten Commandments, as followers of Jesus. Now, how can they call themselves that when they're enslaving people, beating them, selling their kids? How can you call yourself a Christian and still do those things? You can if the people you're selling are inferior and savages, and that they need to be enslaved so that they can be educated, civilized, made like white people. And that's where racism comes in. Racism is the thought process that allows the European people to dehumanize Africans enough to make them into slaves and still think of themselves as Christians. So racism is a whole thought process that becomes invented and institutionalized and made into education systems and made scientific by the most powerful people in society to get the rest of society to justify slavery. I don't know if you knew this, only 1 in 20 Southern families own slaves. The slaveholders are a tiny number of people in the South. They got the rest of the South, the white people, to be convinced that if there was no slavery, that the poor whites would become the slaves. So I say that in America, how does racism start? It starts with slavery. It starts with the racist policy of slavery, which causes African Americans to lack power and education, which causes racist stereotypes to develop about them being stupid and uneducated, which then justifies the bad policies that put them in that position in the first place. So slavery caused African American poverty and lack of education, which then caused white people to think of them as inferior, which then caused white people in charge to pass more anti-Black policies. Because if Blacks were inferior, how could they hold guns? How could they hold jobs? How could they vote? How could they serve on juries? So I say racism actually starts on the presidential, congressional, educated Harvard level and is then forced on the American people, not the other way around. So education will help us become more anti-racist, but probably it will also help us become more racist. That's my long-winded take on that. All right, let me ask this follow-up question to people. Why
Savannah has her hand up.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry if it's loud. There's a plane passing over my house, but
I can't hear it.
I feel that there's such thing as like book smart. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
That there's book smart and there's street smart, but there also should be an aspect where it's politically smart. I feel like if you're book smart, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're politically smart, and if you're not book smart, I don't think that necessarily means that you're politically not smart. But I feel like there should be an aspect where we do teach about like racism and everything in those public schools, because without that, where are we going to educate ourselves if we don't have someone to help us along like that road?
Follow-ups on that? About yes, thank you.
There was a section, I'm sure you all remember in the reading, where he talks about how what I interpreted from it is that to be politically smart is your own opinion formed on the basis of the education that you received. And similar to, I think, Amarani mentioned that education is a problem, and I think it's because of that, because education brings forth your own opinions, and if you have like a shitty education, pardon my French, then it equates to a bad way of thinking about dealing with issues in society.
Follow-ups on that before I get to it? On education's role here? Now, here, let me talk about some of the limitations of education. Although education might eventually empower somebody enough to have enough autonomy and freedom to speak their mind. But that is a late stage aspect of education. That's almost in a sense what you do after education, because check this out. I would say many people right now are going to school so that they can get a good job. That's the primary aspect of what they're doing here, rather than education. So if you think about it, I mean, what makes a good student? I said these riffs on the first day. A good student is one who pays attention, who doesn't speak out of turn, who does what the teacher tells them to do, who submits to authority, basically. Like if someone had something really smart and important to say, but they kept interrupting me, as the teacher, I would probably deny that. It's a hierarchical system, you know? So in a sense, education does have limits on its revolutionary promise, because it's kind of a gatekeeping system that's designed to eliminate revolutionaries, actually. If a student was revolutionary and didn't do the work or spoke out of turn, they would probably get an F. If a student challenged the professor's knowledge too much, they would probably get a bad grade. So formal education, in a sense, does have some limits. I mean, rarely in the educational system do you learn capitalism is wrong, you know, or capitalism is the foundation of racism. Because in a sense, we're training you to enter into the capitalist system, which is a realistic goal. Because if you weren't trained to enter the capitalist system, you might, you know, be poor and lack autonomy in a certain way to make change, because you would basically be beholden to your employer. Anyone want to follow up on that? The limits of education. All right. Continuing on then. Why do the protests anger some Americans? Why do some Americans simply get disturbed by the idea of people going out and marching for their rights? What's the problem for some people with that? Alrighty, the good professor lets the dead air sit there for another minute and then moves on. And we're almost out of time. All right, then I want one more thing for you. Have you ever stood up for a cause or for an individual in your life, and in a way that you would explain it to the other students so that they could actually hear a story and model behavior and envision themselves as someone who stands up to injustice? I know you can do this. Give me one example of your standing up. Anybody.
What was the question?
Have you ever stood up for a cause or for a person and could share the story? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really talking about, is being able to stand up for what you think is right.
Yes, I participated in the Black Lives Matter protests. They were both peaceful. And what else? I don't know what else. It's awkward.
That's okay. You did good. Now, and I'll fill some space here, because a lot of people have talked in the chat. We really have done 50 minutes of work. It's just we have a few minutes to spare. I want to say something about the protests were peaceful, because the fact that you even had to add that symbolizes to me that the protests have been stigmatized. Now vandalism is right up there mentioned with the protests. You can't think of one without the other. I want to talk about my theories of property damage. First of all, you'll notice human beings are not killed during these protests unless they're killed by police. So the idea that protesters are out of control is a questionable idea from the start. If they really were, you'd see mass murder. Also note, Black-owned local businesses are hardly ever touched or burned. Neither are people's homes noticed. Again, if these were out of control gangs of thugs and criminals, wouldn't they be murdering people and burning their homes, marching into your suburban neighborhood? No. What do you see? National chains like AutoZone or Wendy's that are not have anything to do with these communities being burned. So that's the first step to understand. These are targeted national businesses that have been seen as having an exploitative community to the exploitative relationship to the communities they profit off. So that's step one. Step two now, who is doing this so-called vandalism? Because the knee-jerk reaction is to think, oh, it must be Black Lives Matter protesters. It must be non-white protesters damaging these white businesses, right? They're the real racists, right? It's not what I see. And granted, my Twitter feed is biased. But here's the pictures I see. There's three kinds of people doing the looting. The first kind is white supremacists and police burning buildings. Why? One, to destroy and harm Black neighborhoods. Two, to have an excuse and justification to kill and hurt non-white protesters. Three, to discredit the protests. Four, to credit police as to being more in danger and under siege than they really are. The second group of people who might be lighting fires, in addition to white racists and white supremacists, is white people who want to join Black Lives Matter, but don't really know how to protest, and who won't suffer any consequences, and who think that being political is going into a Black or brown neighborhood and messing stuff up, knowing that they won't be killed by the police, knowing that their neighborhoods are safe, knowing that there won't be any repercussions for them. I have seen more than one video of non-white protesters saying to a white person who's about to start a fire, that's not how we do this. And then third, yeah, there's probably some Black Lives Matter protesters who are non-white who are doing messed up stuff too. But, you know, that's a much more varied and nuanced version of what's going on than what we're seeing in the news. And remember this, who runs the news? It's not Jethro and Billy Bob and Cletus in their pickup truck with their Confederate flag and their jean shorts. Media is run by the smartest, wealthiest, most educated people. So the racism you see on TV every day, and in movies like Freedom Riders every day, in which the white teacher solves everyone's problems in 2 minutes, when their parents and communities couldn't solve their problems for 20 years, what a bunch of idiots those non-whites must be. Those movies are sinister. Those movies are done by the most educated people in society. So yes, education can solve some of our problems, but it also causes a lot of our problems too, in my opinion. So ladies and gents, that's all I have for you today. So now I think what we're doing is you're going to be handing me essays in through Canvas. And we're going to be working on improving an essay and revising an essay. And we're also going to have one individual conference, me and you, for 15 minutes. I'm Ronnie. If you ever take my AMCS 392 class, I'm going to ruin the Freedom Riders experience for you forever. And Dangerous Minds. And Lean on Me. And maybe one day Stand and Deliver too. Woo! All right. So anyway, yeah, my Teacher in the Hood movies lesson. So I'll have to make a 15-minute Canvas or Zoom appointment with all of you. And we'll do that via email or whatever. You know, I'll write you on your Canvas page. And we'll set up that 15-minute appointment. You'll all pass the class. I'm going to give you all passing grades. Don't worry about that. But hey, welcome to college. And look me up when you get here, finally. All right. See you on the last day. You can go. I'll stay. Bye. Peace. All right, we're just waiting for Chad to come in here, I guess, huh? And then flip it over to him.
You could just give us the hosting and then
Oh,
we
I
can
can do
transfer
that
it to
too.
him.
Yeah, sure. Let me
Mhm.
try to do that in my. Okay, so
Or even if you just leave the host,
leave meeting. Okay.
it's assigned
Okay.
to me.
All right, I'll assign it to you, Julia.
There we go. That was good.
They were really participating today. Like,
Yeah.
they were more out there.
I really like Berto's perspectives. I feel like they're really different. And then when him and Savannah started talking, I was like, here we go. This is
I know, I
normal.
thought they were gonna be like going at each other, but they were really respectful, which I appreciate.
Yeah. I feel like they have very different but very similar perspectives, and just the way that they say it is very different. And I feel like Berto's very out there, and I respect that because I feel like all the time I have to like tiptoe and be like, well, what I think.
I think they're
But yeah,
getting
they're both
more
really good.
comfortable with Andre too.
Mhm.
Because I know, like, a couple of my students, they were kind of like, they didn't say it, but it was implied that they're kind of scared of him. Because you know how
Intimidated.
Andre was like calling them out and all that good stuff, but
Yeah.
they were more comfortable with him. I could tell today.
Yeah, that's good. Did any of your students meet with him yesterday?
Savannah was supposed to, but she's meeting with him today because she had to go to work.
Cool.
I don't know. Did Andre give you like times?
He gave me all of them, but I only took a picture of one of them. So he's saying that he wants to rotate our appointments. So he said 1:20, 2 p.m., and then 2:40, and then you have 1:40 and 2:20. But then he also gave like the 7:15
and the
whatever. But what is it? 7:15 and what?
7:40.
Okay, let me write that down because I texted him about that. He hasn't answered me.
Do you have his number? Because he was supposed to give me his number a while back. I emailed him about it, but he never responded.
No, yeah. I'll forward it to you right now.
Okay.
I'll text it to you.
The whole time during our morning meeting, he kept on private messaging me, and I was like,
yeah,
trying to type while listen.
I kept texting George. I was like, what did they say? I was like, I literally can't pay attention because I'm like this. And he's like, send it to Julia. I'm like, okay.
And we finally figured out Ramon.
Oh my God. And I have like my attendance sheet. And I was like, where the heck is this Juan guy? Like, I can't find him.
Should we admit students or should we wait for Chad?
Are there any coming in?
There's one in the waiting room.
You can admit them if you want to. It's your call. I think it's fine either way.
Okay. I don't know what time it is.
10:52.
Early.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a co-host?
No.
I'll make you one.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Hi, Yair. If you can turn on your camera, please do so. Thank you.
We're just waiting for Chad.
Chad. Okay, I just sent it to you. Let me know if you get it.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Unmute myself. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I can make you the host.
Perfect.
And then I don't know if I'm a co-host, but if you can
Why don't I make you both the co-hosts?
Yeah, I
I'm
know
the host now.
Kathy is.
There we go.
Participants. Okay, so Kathy's a co-host, and now let's. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, it's 11 o'clock and it looks like we have about 5 people. So hopefully over the next few minutes, several more join us. But right now I'll just ask, does anybody have questions? How'd the homework go? That sort of thing. I'll leave it open for anybody's comment. And go ahead and turn on your videos. All right, are we ready to play with our M&Ms today? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Nadia. Go ahead and eat your M&Ms if you have recorded how many of each color you have. That's the important part. We just need to, and you should have had a little form to fill out. So, for example, 6 red, 10 green, that sort of thing. And we'll get going here in a couple of minutes, but I have a place for you to enter all that data in day 3 in the Canvas page. Oh, I'm sorry, Yair. Your M&Ms melted? I think I found that they still taste okay, usually, and as long as you could tell what the original color was. And yeah, they're all stuck together. Okay. Let's let in another person. And I actually found a M&M simulator, a computer program that will allow you to go click on the bag of M&Ms and tell you how many colors were in each bag, just in case somebody does not have their M&Ms. So let's see, 3 minutes after, let's give it a couple more minutes. So far we have 15 total, which means we have 12 students.
Hey, Chad.
Yes.
I just have a quick question. Say worst case scenario, one of our students hasn't received their packages because we did find that out in the morning that they were sent back to the company.
Yeah.
What can they do for their M&M count?
I have already ran the computer simulation for several colors or for several bags of M&Ms, and I have those. The simulation was for bags of 100, so I had to scale it because our bags have about 56 in them.
Okay.
But I already anticipated that might happen and ran some simulations, so I have some colors already picked out for students.
Perfect.
So yeah, just let me know, and I could even, I don't know if it helps to share that data with you right now. But I have something for, I don't know how many are in that situation. Okay, so I got a message from Miguel that he can't hear anything, so he's not hearing me say this. Okay. Okay, so it's 5 after. I feel like we should get going. Okay, so you'll notice in your homework you had several videos to watch, and we're going to follow up on that today. We're basically going to use the M&Ms to do box plots. We'll do box plots of the different colors, and so we're going to work on finding the 5-number summaries of the M&Ms. So 5-number summary of the red, for example. Find the minimum and the maximum within our group of red M&Ms, and Q1, Q3, and the median. You'll notice when you did your homework, part of your homework last night was to fill out the survey. There was a lot of questions there that weren't part of our questions that we came up with. What we did is we put all of the cohorts together into one group. So that's why there was extra questions there. And there was a lot of overlap. Some other people had wondered about, somebody in another group wondered about ice cream. So we got some other flavors in there. So that's why there was a lot more questions. And then we're going to be able to put all that data into a spreadsheet and use that later on. Let me go ahead and share my screen and introduce today's material. So let me see here. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. So let's go to day 3. We're in day 3. And hopefully you're able to follow along in Canvas, but I understand if you can't. So when we scroll down to quantitative reasoning, click here. So for this session, we'll be using our class's M&M data. Open your bag of M&Ms, count and record how many of each color you have. Once the quantity of each color is recorded, dispose of the M&Ms as you see best. So that's your choice on that one. And then use this link right here. I have a Google Docs sheet to enter your data. And I had a bag of M&Ms. I already entered my data. Kathy and Julia, do you want to participate? Do you have M&Ms or anything? The reason I bring it up is that it looks like our numbers are a little bit low. And if we had a couple other data sets, it would probably help.
We can participate. We just didn't get any M&Ms.
Okay. Great. I have M&M colors for you. Let's see here. So hopefully I'm in the spreadsheet now, and I'm hoping that students are able to navigate to that. So I'll keep an eye on that and make sure that that's happening. So this is going to take a few minutes to count all your M&Ms and get that into the spreadsheet. Kathy, here, why don't I give you your colors? I got 9 green, 7 red, 8 yellow, 11 blue, 8 brown, and 14 orange. And Julia, are you ready for colors? Okay. 10 green, 6 red, 7 yellow, 11 blue, 7 brown, and 15 orange.
And Chad, our students are saying that it's view only right now. Can you change the settings on the Google Sheets to edit?
Absolutely. As soon as I figure out how to do that, let's see here.
I think you go to share and then put can edit.
Yeah, share. So I was able to share and allow everybody in. Let's see. Your editor. There we go. I changed something. I'm not sure if I changed the right thing. Let's see how it goes. Okay, it looks like people are able to edit now. Thank you for the help on that. Cool. Let me go back to sharing my screen.
Hey, Chad.
Yes.
For the other students who didn't receive their M&Ms, would you
Yeah.
be able to give them their numbers too right now?
I'm looking for my, yeah, I'm trying to find the link to the M&M's thing. Like I'd done 2 of them, and now I need to run the simulator again.
Okay.
I just need to find the email here. There we go. How many students do we have that need M&M counts?
I just know one of my students.
Okay,
I'm
great.
not sure about any others.
Okay, great. Let's do this. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is an M&M simulator. Every time I click the bag of M&Ms, it gives different colors. The problem is our bags have about 56 in them, and this bag has 100 in them. So I just need to multiply each number by 0.56. So for green M&Ms, we have 16 times 0.56. So we have 9 green M&Ms, 6 red M&Ms, 7 yellow M&Ms, 12 blue M&Ms, 8 brown M&Ms, and 15 orange M&Ms. Did that work? Okay. Cool. And we need a way to figure out when everybody has their data entered. It looks like some people are still working. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, just in case somebody tries to chat privately. Okay, so Julie, I already responded to you with the M&M's color. Jasmine, you're asking how do you get to the spreadsheet? Through the Canvas page in day 3 in quantitative reasoning, and you'll see a link, but let me go ahead and share my screen and go back to that same link. Okay, so I'm gonna close this. Let me hide the meeting controls, they're kind of in the way. Close this. Okay, so in day 3, we'll go back to the home of the Canvas page. We scroll down to day 3, week 1, day 3. And then we scroll down, like the 3rd block is quantitative reasoning workshop. Click here. So we click there. And then right underneath do it, once the quantity of each color is recorded, use the link to enter your data. So this link right here. And I think Melissa, did you have any brown M&Ms in your package? It looks like a couple students have not put in colors in the spreadsheet under brown. Okay. Jasmine's doing well. So it looks like we're waiting for maybe Angelina. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So Angelina says she's on her way home, so I guess she's not able to do it right now. So we need to kind of move on. So go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so here's what we have. So in your videos, you learned how, last night, we learned how to create box plots and find a 5-number summary. Basically, a box plot is a graphical display of the 5-number summary. So I'm going to start with an example, and I'm going to show us how to do a 5-number summary by hand. And I figure I'll just use the red M&Ms. So we have red M&Ms over here. And then once we have the 5-number summary, then we can use the techniques in the videos to draw a box plot. So let me start here. So let's see, everybody can see my screen. I have, click on the red column. So I'm just gonna find the 5-number summary for the red M&Ms. So let me do a Command C. So the thing we said we need to do is we need to write our data values out in a list in order. So let me switch to, I'm just gonna do a cut and paste into my own spreadsheet here. So that's what we have. And I usually write them out. So I usually write them out left to right. So let me just transpose those so that we can read them left to right. Use the transpose command. There we go. And center everything. Okay. So let's see, let's get these out of the way. Okay, so there's our data. So this is the different numbers of red M&Ms in people's packages. And so in order to find the 5-number summary, we need to relist these in an order smallest to largest, or largest to smallest, I guess is okay, but it comes a little more natural to list them smallest to largest. So it looks like the smallest value we have in this list is 6. And 6 occurs 4 times. So I'm just gonna maybe right below, a couple lines below. So I see 6 once, twice, 4 times total. And then if I had a piece of paper, I would usually mark out the 6 so it's easier for me to look at the data again. So I'll just kind of delete those from the list. Okay, so now the next largest data value after 6 is 7. So I see 7 2 times. And I'll delete those from the list. So the next is 8, the next largest number. So continuing with our pattern here of listing smallest to largest. So we list 8 twice. I'll delete 8 from the list. And now I see 9. So 3 people have packs of M&Ms where there are 9 reds. So let's do 9, 9, and 9. And then we have 10, 12, and 15 in order. 10, 12, and 15. There we go. So once we have the, and I could have done that in a spreadsheet. I could have told Excel to just sort those, and it would have, but it's good to be doing it by hand. Okay, so now I have a space here for the 5-number summary. So from our videos last night, we learned how to find the 5-number summary. So what's the minimum? What's the minimum in this data set? Anybody? Okay, I see the chats. 6. Thank you, Nadia and Yair. Okay, so absolutely 6 is the minimum. And what's the maximum? 15. Excellent. Yep. So 15 is the maximum. And we have to next, I think the next easiest one to find is the median. So to find the median, let's see, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat box. Jasmine says 8. That looks right. Let me double check. So we first have to know how many data values there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 14 data values. So since we have an even number of data values, there's not really a middle value. We take the middle 2 and we average them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I believe that I'll just kind of highlight both 8 and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, I did not do that right. Pardon me. I had a counting problem. These 2 should be the middle, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we have 14 data values, which means we don't really have a middle value, so we take the middle 2 and we average them. The average of 8 twice is 8. So 8 is the correct median. Are there any questions about how I did that? It's easy to average 2 numbers that are the same in this case. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat box here. Oh. Okay, great. Thank you, Melissa. Absolutely. 8 was the median, the middle value. And now we want to find the 2 quartiles, Q1 and Q3. So Q1 is the 25th percentile. It's the location in our data where 25% of the data values are less than it and 75% are more than it. So since we have an even number of data values, we just take the lower, I'll use some color here. We'll just need to find the median of the lower half of the data. I'll use a different color for the upper half of the data, maybe green or something like that. Okay, so Q1 is basically, or the 25th percentile is going to be the middle of the lower half of the data. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data values. The middle value is going to be the 4th one. Let me find a new color. There we go. So 6 should be the 25th percentile, or Q1. And we do the same with the upper half here. So we should have 7 data values. We're going to have the middle one of those 7 is going to be 9. And I'll highlight that. So finding the middle of the lower half gives you Q1, and finding the middle of the upper half gives you Q3. So we found our 5-number summary. Whoops. Let's do this. Okay, so the 5-number summary, and we often write it like this, with parentheses with the 5 numbers separated by commas. So we have 6. So the minimum is the same as Q1. That's interesting. And then the median is 8. Oops. And Q3 is 9. And then the maximum was 15. So our, so that is interesting. Our Q1 and our minimum are the same. That just means that 6 was a real popular number, and it was also the lowest number. Okay, so now let me see, let me go to Microsoft Word. Put our 5-number summary there. So our goal is to draw a box plot. And a box plot is a graphical display of the 5-number summary. So in order to draw a box plot, we need to find out if we have any outliers. And from the videos we had last night, we find outliers by calculating fences. We have something called the lower fence and the upper fence. And any data value smaller than the lower fence is an outlier, and any data value larger than the upper fence is an outlier. So in order to find fences, we need to start out by finding the interquartile range, which is Q3 minus Q1. So for Q3, we have 9 minus Q1, which is 6. We get 3. I'm going to slow down and check the, no questions at the moment. I'm looking at the chat here. So our interquartile range, abbreviated IQR, is 3. So we can use that to find the lower fence now. So the lower fence is Q1, which is 6, minus 1.5 times our IQR that we just found of 3. Okay, so 3 times 1.5 is going to be 4.5. So doing the arithmetic here, 6 minus 4.5 is going to be 1.5. Okay, so what that means is that any data value less than 1.5 would be an outlier. Well, our smallest data value is 6. So nobody had a bag of M&Ms with less than 6 red in them. So what that really means is we have no outliers on the lower side of our data. Okay, so now let's calculate the upper fence. And that is Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR, the interquartile range. So Q3 was 9 plus 1.5 multiplied by 3. Okay, so that's going to be 9 plus 4.5, which is 13.5. Ah, okay. So any data value larger than 13.5 is an outlier. It looks like we have outliers here. We at least have one. The maximum is an outlier. I have to go back and look at the data to see if there's any other values that were more than 13.5. So Nope. So we had 15 was the largest. So somebody had 15 red M&Ms, and then the next person had, with a large count of red M&Ms, had 12 red M&Ms. So we have that one outlier of 15, and it's good to note that 12 is the largest value that's not an outlier, because that's where we draw our line to from the third quartile, is to the largest data value that's not an outlier. Okay, so this means we have one outlier of 15. And I guess it's important to note that 12 is the largest data value that's not an outlier. 12 is the largest data value that is not an outlier. Okay, so now I'm going to try to hand draw a box plot for you. And to do that, I'm going to do that on a whiteboard. So let's see here. Let me write down my 5-number summary. Was 6, 6, 8, 9, and 15. And then 15 is an outlier, and 12 was the largest data value that was not an outlier. Okay, so let me switch screens here. Let's go up to here, and I think I just need to get my window just a little bit lower. Hide the meeting controls. Okay, so I have a whiteboard here. So what you should do is take a straight edge and draw a horizontal line, and then locate tick marks that are evenly spaced. If this was an 8.5 by 11 regular size sheet of paper, you might want those tick marks an inch to an inch and a half away from something. So just an inch to an inch and a half away from each other. So just draw a straight edge and try to locate some marks on that horizontal axis, I'll call it, that are evenly spaced. And so we set a box plot in the videos. We said a box plot is a graphical display of the 5-number summary. So we draw a box that stretches from Q1 to Q3. So I'm going to start at, well, I need to label my axis, don't I? So my smallest data value is 6, and my largest data value is 15. So let's see, it makes sense to me to maybe have increments of 5 on my axis. So I'll put in 0. And I'll put in 5. And I'll put in 10. And then 15 will get me there because that's the largest data value. And then I can arrange these a little bit so that they look a little better. I'm a little bit new with drawing on whiteboards with my computer. Okay, so there's our axis, our numerical scale. And so we want to draw a box between Q1 and Q3. So Q1 is 6. So I draw a vertical line at 6. So let's see, just do the best you can. Human eye is pretty good at subdividing things. So the middle in between 5 and 10 would be 7.5. So 6 is about right here. So I'll draw a vertical line at 6. And then Q3 is 9. So about the same distance from 10 on this side here. About there. Okay, so I have a vertical line at Q1 and a vertical line at Q3, and then I connect those lines to make a box, connect them with a horizontal line to make a box. Like that. So let me give you a minute. Might be, make sure that everybody gets that. Next, we draw a line dividing the box at the median. So the median is 8. So I need to go about 1 over, so 7.5 is right in between, 8's maybe right here. There we go. So that line dividing my box should be at 8. Okay, so the second last thing for us to do is draw lines from the quartiles out to the most extreme data values that are not outliers. So this is kind of interesting because we're not going to have a line. This is a unique case. I didn't expect this. We're not going to have a line on the lower side because Q3 is 6 and our smallest data value is also 6. So there's no place to draw the line to. So we just let that sit there, which it happens sometimes when we have a small number of data values. On the upper side of the data, we said that the largest data value that's not an outlier was 12. So we want to draw a line from the third quartile out to 12, which would be about right here. So let me try to locate 12. So 12.5 would be here. 12 would be about right there. And I'm just going to do a horizontal line between 12 and the quartile. Next, any outliers we individually identify with an asterisk or a dot or something like that. So we had one outlier of 15. Let me change my marker here. And so I just want to do a little dot right there at 15. And there is a box plot. Now let me try to check the chat and see how everybody's doing. I'm gonna wait maybe a minute to make sure everybody has their box plot and kind of keep an eye on the chat here. And for the moment, let me stop sharing my screen. And I am going to look at the spreadsheet real quickly here to see if Angelina, you got your data entered. That's great. Are there any questions? What I'd like to do is to break you into groups, and I'm gonna assign a different color for each group, and find the 5-number summary and let's start with the 5-number summary, and then we probably won't have time because our class is going to end in about 12 or 13 minutes, but we have time to find the 5-number summary and then start drawing the box plot for your color. So any questions about that? Okay, so let me put you into breakout rooms, and let me just make sure that Kathy and Julia end up in a room that's not together with each other. And breakout rooms. I think groups of groups of 4 to 5. I like that. Groups of 4 to 5. Let's see. So that means we'll have 3 groups, and I just want to make sure that Julia and Kathy are not in the same group.
Kathy's having Wi-Fi troubles right now, so she's been in and out.
Okay, so she's not going to be in this. Okay, and then Julia, I see you're going to be in group 2. Okay, so we have some other colors here. Let me look at the data. Okay, so let's see. Breakout room. I'm going to send you into breakout rooms. So Angie, Melissa, Miguel, Savannah, and Stephanie, we can have you do this. Take the color orange. Amarini, Elvira, Julia, Nadia, and Tyler, we can have you take blue. And then the last group, Alyssa, Jasmine, Ramon, and Yair, why don't you take yellow? So I'm going to go ahead and send you into the breakout rooms now.
Chad, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's go over your homework. Your homework is basically to finish the box plot that you started. Looking at the spreadsheet, it looks like a couple pieces of data were deleted. Savannah, we don't have your yellow number.
Did you want us to finish the box plot for the color you assigned to us, or all of them?
No, just the color. Just do the one color that you were working on. That's
sure.
fine. So hopefully everybody got their 5-number summary. And so let me share my screen and just go over your homework. So back to the Canvas page here. And your homework's basically just to finish the box plot and then figure out how to submit that in a homework. And so this is going to come up a lot in your when you're doing homework next semester. So let me click on day 3 here. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom, close that, the quantitative reasoning homework says, complete the hand-drawn box plot that you created while working in your group today during class. This box plot should represent the data for your group's assigned color of M&M. Make sure your drawing includes the following elements. Title, a clearly labeled axis, scaled appropriately. Your box plot drawn to scale and labeled with the exact values of the minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum. Be sure any outliers are indicated with a dot or an asterisk. Okay, so this part too is important. It says scan or take a clear photo of the hand-drawn box plot that you and your group created during class today for your assigned M&M color. If you're taking a photo with your phone, paste this photo into a Word document. Okay, so we're all learning in this remote learning process, but it says here, upload either a PDF from a scan or a Word document from a photo. So what's been happening is I noticed last semester, like when I gave an exam or something like that, people took pictures with their phones and those files were so large that, I had like a 10-page exam or something like that, and each file was like 2 megs. And so they were uploading files that were like 10 megs just to submit something. So there's a lot of nice scanner apps out there that you can put on your phone. And so I suggest doing that. That's what we mean by from a scan, because then the file will be a reasonable size. Because sometimes we just take these pictures with these, whatever, I have an iPhone 11 and every picture is like just giant size. So that's what I wanted to highlight, is we're all getting better at formatting our work so that we can use it in this remote environment. So let me, so that's due by 10 a.m. tomorrow. And that's all we have for the day. Questions. I see a chat. Thank you. I was muted. Yes. Sometimes I come back into a room and I am muted, and sometimes I'm not. And I'm working on that. Well, I think it's nice that people are there to tell me that my lips are moving and they hear nothing. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll hang around for a few minutes with questions. I'm gonna make I guess Julia the host now. Does that sound good? Okay, so let's see. Okay, I am no longer the host. I have office hours today between 2:30 and 3:30 p.m. I would love to see somebody if you have questions. Good luck with your homework and have a great day.
Y'all are good to stay, or you can leave and come back if you gotta go do something, because we start at 12.
Okay, thank you.
That Wi-Fi was brutal.
I
Oh my
kept
God.
on having to admit you, and I was like, what's going on?
It went out like 50 times. Oh yeah, she has really nice eyeliner.
How do I? Sorry, I'm trying to. Admit. Do you want to just start with checking in and then doing breakout rooms again?
Yeah.
Should we do Rose and Thorn?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I feel like during this part we should play music. This is always so
Oh, do you know how to do it?
awkward. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I have no idea how to do it.
Because I know Koo used to do that too. Be like, let's play elevator music.
I think it might be share screen and then unmute whoever's doing it.
No, because I don't think it works if you have headphones on. I'll try.